7 o'clock, call the meeting to order, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chapman?
Here.
Clark? Here. Roberts?
Here.
Patton?
Here.
Tyler?
Here.
Zelemer?
Here. Approval of the agenda, I don't think there's any corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
And moved and supported, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Need to approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting as presented.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. July 11th. Support.
And moved and supported to approve the minutes of July 11th meeting. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Any public comment? Reports, Scott.
Great, thank you. Apologize for not being here last month, but I was caught up in baseball and we did really well, so that's a consolation of not being here, I guess. So I appreciate your willingness to let me miss that one. That was kind of nice to do, I guess. Hopefully you get a report in front of you. I apologize because that just came off the press this morning or today. It's been very, very busy. A couple highlights. 4th of July went extremely well. Typically it's a long day, and it was definitely a long day this year, but it went really well as far as traffic control and all the events and stuff like that. So Don stayed over, or actually came in and stayed with me for the most part of the first part of the day. Al Burnett came in the later part of the day, and then tremendous help from the fire department as far as traffic and the fireworks, and so it just went perfect. I mean, probably one of the best in the last 10 years or so. So besides that, still doing a lot. July, a little bit of June, but most of July I've been in training in Bel Air. We are really close to switching over to the MCTs in the car, which are the onboard computers in the car. It involves a lot of training. I think I've spent in the last 2 months probably 13 days probably in training. And the bad part about it is it takes me away from where I'm supposed to be here, but I've had lots of conversations with Larry and Bill. The nice part about it is it costs us nothing. If I didn't attend this training here in Bel Air, I would have had to go downstate at our expense, and it still wouldn't have relieved the time. So the nice part about switching over a computer system is that we're going to be on board with the Sheriff's Department, the same program which we've been wanting to do for a long time. A couple of years ago, I gave you guys a heads up on a grant request. I was trying to switch our computer program so we could mirror and match the county's program. And that would have cost us about $6,000 at the time to do that. This part of the stuff that we're doing now got rolled into the 911 millage, and all the villages are now on board with the Sheriff's Department. So it's awesome from a standpoint as far as us being on the same paperwork, communications, stuff like that. It worked out really well that our computer program that we've been paying for the last 10 plus years since I've been here, now we don't have to pay for that. So we saved about $1,200 a year as the village is concerned, that we don't have to pay for that program. This one's a much better program. So it involves a lot of training, a lot of updating. At some point when we get the computers in our car, there'll still be a little bit of learning curve and stuff like that. But so that's kind of where I've been most of the July. One of the coolest things, or one of the best news I have for you today, is that we finally got the last grant for the police car. So our new police car has been 100% paid for at zero expense to the village. So we got basically a new car for nothing, which I kind of hoped that I could come back and tell you that, but now I'm officially telling you that. So we've already got the check. I think it's already been cashed and deposited. The company we got the final grant from was TransCanada. They want to do kind of a meet and greet photo op, and I think they'll be here at our board meeting next month to present a big ceremonial check and get some pictures and stuff like that. So they were ecstatic as far as helping, and I relayed to them that we are ecstatic to have that. So So, and that's about it.
Scott, we certainly appreciate your diligence in pursuing the grants, and the matter of being able to obtain a car for no cost to the village is quite substantial.
Yeah. I'm glad that you guys gave me the go ahead to go ahead and do that, because, I mean, obviously it's gonna help us out the next 6, 7+ years for a car that we don't have to replace. I mean, obviously there's gonna be some routine maintenance and stuff like that.
And we realize you don't have to do that, and we appreciate you doing it.
Well, I would disagree, I think that's part of my job, so,
Well, we appreciate it anyways.
thank you.
He's quite an asset to our community.
Yes.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Everybody should have a copy of my DPW report. You'll find a notice on there, well, 2A. It is, we're not having a problem, we're pumping plenty of water now. That's how much the water usage has went down, so everything's in good shape on that end. We had the Kubota fixed, we had a wheel, not a wheel bearing, a wheel seal go out of it. I didn't know how to take the front cover off, so we took it up to Kubota, they went ahead and fixed it. Any questions on the report? I got one other statement I would like to let everybody know. Rachel applied for a grant from Consumers Power for 15 trees. And she's done all the work on that tree grant herself. I don't have but probably 1 hour involved in it. So if we get it, and I want to let her know right now, thank you for doing all the paperwork on it. I really appreciate it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
North end of the town looks nice, Sam.
Pardon?
The paving on the north end of town looks good.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brian. Now that you say that, after we got the road all laid out, we decided we better put 4 foot on the outside of the curb, because we figured the people coming up off, Darman Place, or whatever that name is.
Darn, Stillwater.
Still,
Yeah, Stillwater. We figured they'd cut that corner and start busting the edge of the road off, so I went ahead and had Reeve and Riley put 4 more additional feet on the curb, and that will reflect in the bill for the blacktop. There'll be no labor on their part for it. Thank you, Brian.
You got it.
Lyle?
Well, the month of July was pretty busy. We were full all month. This month has already reflected some changes, slowing up a little bit during the middle of the week. I got 8 open sites right now. I'm going to leave in a few minutes. As soon as I get done, I got 4 people coming in. So by the time I get here, I'll only have 4 left for this week. And tomorrow we'll fill that up. So it's looking good down there. It's been busy.
Well, you sure been busy. Every time I come through there, you're doing something. I hate to stop and talk to you, I don't want to take away from your work.
Yeah, the pavilion's been busy with reunions. We had the 2 big ones this last weekend. We had shoved the extra tables over for the Patton and reunion, and so it all adds up. Yeah. There's a lot of going at times, and wasn't for Rob looking after some of the finer points, I'd probably be lost. So, thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Lyle. You did a lot of work on there tonight.
If it's okay, if you guys got any questions, otherwise I'm gonna bail out.
thank you.
Sail away.
I got 3 coming from Montague and they all got trailers.
We appreciate what you do too, or well, I don't think we don't.
Okay.
He's catching fish now. He's got to go fishing.
I thought it, you said it.
See you, Lyle.
You're the only one of these?
Correspondence, there's a couple of things here. DTE Gas is going in front of the Michigan Public Service Commission to appeal something so they can give credits back to their customers. And if anybody's interested, here's the sheet on it. It's Monday, August 20th. down in Lansing. So don't think it really impacts any of us. And then there's some changes in the medical marijuana policies through the state. We got this regarding it, and then we got a letter from Brian Graham, which essentially says we don't have to do anything yet, but depending on what happens on the state level, we may have to change ordinances. So, but he'll let us know if and when that happens. And that's all the correspondence that I have. Committee reports, Lyle?
I haven't had anything, Sam's been doing a great job as usual, everything's under control.
Good. Leila, sewer and water?
Nothing unusual.
Okay.
Sam keeps it pretty well organized, so I don't have to worry about anything.
And Bill?
I think Chief covered it pretty well, I don't have anything additional.
Okay. Brian Patton, finance personnel.
I don't have anything either.
Rob Tyler, parks.
Yep. July revenue as compared to 2017 was up 1.5%. We made $23,429.97. We've already got reservations for next year at $24,270. We're continuing to replace the picnic tables. We're going to replace 6 ones, cost about $1,000. We're taking it out of the 508, which is the repair and maintenance of the campground. So we're not running a deficit in that, we're contributing to the deficit. It's already budgeted for $5,000. We've spent, we spent $1,800 with the picnic tables at another $1,000. Plus we're gonna need some treated lumber for that too. So probably we'll have $2,000 left, but always something's gonna come up, a fan will break down. So that's where we're at budgetarily wise. Let's see. Oh, when I was signing the bills today, we were talking about that. Ralph Hines bid the job out at $2,000 to cut those trees down where the new pavilion's gonna be. And he brought in a bill at $1,500. I think it says a lot for his honesty and integrity.
Certainly noteworthy.
That, you go to your local people and they want to do right by you, whereas any other person could have just come in there for the bill of $2,000 and slid it right on in, nobody would have known the difference. So I think that's important. That's why we like to give our contracts to local folks, because they have a stake in the well-being of the village. And that is it.
Very good. In my report, I don't have a lot, but you did receive our sewer study proposals. We sent out letters to 4 companies. We received 3 of them back. We're not going to talk about them tonight. They're for your homework assignment for the next month. We'll talk about them in September. At this point, we are committed to no one. We're not even committed to doing it. But at least we have some information now, is that if we decide we want to do it, we can make an informed decision as to what it's going to cost and what we get out of them. So take those, look them over carefully, and be prepared to talk about them next month. So we had an incident with one of our sewer customers this past couple of weeks, and which the way things stand right now, the way our ordinances read, from the septic tank out into the sewer system is our responsibility. From the house into the tank, it is the homeowner's responsibility. Well, we had a system back up which caused problems from the tank into the house, which wasn't really their fault. We don't have a proactive program to pump those tanks on a continuous basis. We wait until they get backed up or there's some indication that there's a problem. That's when we go in and decide what we have to do. And this customer accepted our policy and whatever, but I didn't think it was entirely fail. It wasn't entirely her fault that she had to cover the expenses between the house and the tank because it was a tank that got plugged up, backed up, and then, so it put an undue hardship on her, I'm sure. It was, her bill for the inside of the house was $500 after NEPOS went out there. And I'd like the sewer water committee to meet and just kind of look over that ordinance and see if there's some way we could either share that cost with the home customer or cover those costs if we determine it is the backup that's actually caused it, or can we start a program to pump tanks on the sewer system every so often? That's expensive, it's $375 a crack or something like that, I think. So, and I understand why we wait until something goes bad, but by the same token, I don't think it's fair. If the tank would have been pumped, she probably wouldn't have had any issues from the tank to the house. So if you guys could get together and try to figure that all out, I'd appreciate it. And give us a report, and maybe we can make some changes. Maybe what we're doing is the best way to keep doing it. So I don't know, but I just didn't, I didn't
Who's on
think it
sewer
was
and water?
entirely fair. Huh?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. Who's on sewer and water?
It was the
Me.
chair, and I
I've
don't,
heard nothing about it, that's just it.
you know, you didn't hear anything about it so until tonight, now, so. Sam and I are the only ones that had any contact with him, so, and that's just, it's my thoughts that are being projected here, so. And I don't remember who's on the committee with Leila. You seemed to me like it was Robin. I don't remember. It's in the office. It's in the office. We can find it. Also, I have met with our attorney to discuss property that the village owns, but organizations that have facilities on that property. Primarily the Chamber Cabin, Chamber of Commerce, and the Lions Pavilion down at the park that's very close to Lyle's camper there. Both of those organizations approached to say that they would like to do work in those and could we help them out. So I took that question to Brian Graham, and Brian said yes, but we should probably draft documents that reflect our relationship with those organizations, when those structures were put on the property to begin with, and then he would write it to say that we have a working relationship and that we can put money to maintain it into it. They don't have to approve it because it's our property essentially. But I don't want to upset the apple cart with these service organizations either. I don't think I will if we can cover costs. And I've already cut a deal with the Lions Club at the Pavilion. I said, we'll provide the paint if you guys provide the labor. They wanted to spruce it up. We put a post in this spring. Sam and the boys did put in a rotted, took care of a rotten post down there. And so we're maintaining it, which we should maintain it. The fact that they're willing to do the labor, I think that's good it's a win-win for them and us. Chamber has some plans to reconstruct the cabin, to turn it into a welcome center that can be used without anybody having to be there. They just open up the door, there's brochures, and enclose the antiques that are in that building, provide a viewing area where you can look in and see it, but then you walk out and go on your way. I thought that Sherry Fuss was supposed to be here tonight and talk more about it, but she's not, so. Anyway, if anybody knows when those structures were put on those two pieces of property that we own, I would like you to come forward, because I've asked a couple of people and their memories don't go back far enough. I know the cabin was done, I believe, in the late 70s. And the pavilion, I think, was done in the 1980s someplace, but I,
Word is, widower knows. Word carries widower knows.
okay,
Wasn't when they did the turn of the century thing,
yeah.
76?
Well, Mike Bachman was chamber president that year that they did that, he said, but I don't remember what year that was, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a period cabin, so, yeah. So we need that information, and then Brian can do what he's gotta do, and we'll formalize our relationship and with those groups, and with regard to our property and
I
their.
wonder if Ron would remember, did Ron build that Lions Club pavilion? Donaldson?
It was my understanding that the Lions Club built it.
No, Lions did that. Who exactly it was that did it.
Anyway, that's all I have.
Well, let's go back to that real quick, because
Okay.
we're comparing apples and oranges. One is a maintenance issue, a pavilion that's pretty much maintenance-free. The other is an improvement to a structure that has already started, it's in deep disrepair. I was in there today.
Okay.
It's,
I have not been there.
it's a home for raccoons and squirrels, that's all it is.
Too bad shake out in there, 12 months.
And like I said, one is an improvement to a structure that is, it's in really bad shape. And at what point are they gonna say, well, we want some quote-unquote help here? I mean, we could be into this for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right. No, I understand.
And I'm worried about maintaining that structure. So they're just two totally different entities, and that's my concern. We start going down that road, all of a sudden now Sam is maintaining the chamber cabin, and all of a sudden now it falls into the hands of the village of Central Lake, and now we're on the hook for all the money, because that's what we started with them, and that's my greatest concern.
Okay. And your concern is very well noted. I have those same concerns. I have not been in the building for several years, but I've heard it's probably to the point where it ought to be torn down. But
Is that bad now?
in order to do that, we've got to declare our relationship with that group, one way or the other. Whether down the road we are forced to spend money to keep it up, if that's what's decided to do, or the chamber is going to have a tough time raising the kind of money to restore. So, you know, do we want it as a community? I don't know that, but I think.
Do you have any financials on the chamber, like where they are at? I mean,
I don't have any of that information, so.
I went to the website, I couldn't find anything. So
I
it's,
think pretty much everything they make pays for fireworks. I don't think they have no.
Traditionally, that's been pretty much the only expense, was to pay for the fireworks.
My concern is opening that cabin up for visibility is vandalism.
Right.
You put glass partitions in there. I mean, I hate to say it, but it happens.
That still need to be monitored of some sort with cameras or.
Yeah, who's gonna be responsible for them?
Right, exactly.
So I agree with Rob, I think we're opening up a huge problem.
You know, the drawings that Sherry came up with as far as these walls here, that's minimal cost. It's the cost of bringing the building back up to make it sound and safe.
There's parts in the roof, Larry, that are absolutely gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can throw a cat through the cracks right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's that bad.
Okay. Well, I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. I'm trying to legalize our relationship essentially. It is our property, so ultimately it's gonna be our problem. If they walked away from it, we'd have to do something. So, but I need that information with respect to when those structures were put on the sites, so. All right, that's it for me. Bills, we have prepaids of $21,227.36. Payroll was $67,02.99. Payables of $14,691.41. Total of $42,621.76.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
moved and supported to pay the bills. Roll call.
Chapman?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Lovell?
Yes.
Patton?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yep.
Becker?
Yes. New business, chamber cabin, we just discussed it. We'll move on. Sherry's not here to present her side, so. Portable water circulation equipment. We've had some issues. Sam alerted us last month, I believe, that our tall tank up on Bunker Hill Road, the bottom half gets used, the upper half sits there and heats up with the sun beating down on the tower and everything that goes with that. So they've investigated a circulation pump that will stir up that water to help alleviate any issues caused by that upper half being stagnant. So I'll turn it over to anybody that wants to talk, that knows more about it than that for me.
I explained to you guys last month how we found out we had all that real warm water in that tower. So what I did in turn is I got a hold of Jennifer and asked Jennifer if she knew of any type of mixing systems I got out there. So she got on the horn to Dixon Engineering, which is one of the bigger engineering firms throughout the northern countries up here of the states. And they do a ton of this, and Jennifer absolutely saved me a ton of time and got a whole bunch of information on it. So at that point, I'm kind of going with what she's telling me, and she has physically had these installed in other tanks. So at that point, I'm putting my trust in her, you know, at this point.
Well, and with that being said, and hopefully you guys saw in your packet, this little cartoon illustration probably kind of helps everybody have a general understanding of what's happening. Because here's our State Street tank, and the dashed lines indicate the levels that the tanks operate between. And basically, and then in comparison to Bunker Hill tank, which is substantially taller and also sits lower. And the reason being that that tank was built that way was it was intended that the State Street tank at some point was going to be decommissioned, which it's in such good condition that, you know, why do that? So what's been happening, and then also too, next to Bunker Hill is Well 4, which does have quite a bit of high iron. So with that being said, both of the tanks have been operating in unison with each other, but there's a large amount of water down here at the bottom for the Bunker Hill tank that is the only one that tends to see the circulation, with, you know, cold water coming in, and that's also the first water that comes out. So you kind of create this, what is called thermal stratification. So you have different zones of temperature, and the same thing happens in the winter too, because when water's coming in, it actually is warmer than the water sitting up top in the winter, so you actually create, you know, different layers of ice, and that ice creates chunks, and it's actually potentially damaging to your tank. So the goal with these mixing systems, and they're very common, we probably have about 4 or 5 of them in different communities that we've installed, and just like Sam had said, Dixon Engineering is throughout all of the Midwest, and they do predominantly a lot of the systems tank inspections. That's who most engineering firms use as a resource. And they're the first ones that had recommended us to this company. Grid B, they also have Solar B, which is a solar means for it, and they recommended these mixers, I don't know, probably 5-6 years ago to us, and we've been, a lot of times even with new tank installs, just for a safety measure, include these mixing systems to ensure that you constantly get this recirculation of water. It ensures you have water that's at the same age and quality, and then it prevents just a lot of that breakdown of water, and consistently ensures that you have a constant pressure. It's a submersible unit. The YouTube videos are great. Sam and I were laughing because it looks like, you know, even I could install it. You know, but you just basically, you provide power to it. It takes 120 volts. It uses 11 amps. So it's nothing. It's peanuts of how much power consumption it uses. It's a submersible, and it sits there at the bottom of the tank, and it just basically sucks water in, and it just basically creates this dispersal system. And you can run it on a SCADA system, you can run it on a timer, which is the latter I recommended to Sam, so that in the spring and summer, or spring and fall, he may not have to even have the need for the mixing system. But the goal is under continual operation, it ensures within a 24-hour period, your top zone and your bottom zone will be within a degree of each other for temperature. So it just definitely provides us that added security. And again, no, we use them all the time. They're very cost effective. The biggest you know, as you can see from the price breakdown, the biggest cost was having them come here and install it. But they do provide a performance guarantee, you know, to show and demonstrate to you that you have that 1 degree temperature mixing. So they provide you that guarantee, and then they also have a 2-year warranty with the system, with the unit as well. So, no, it's a very, you know, highly regarded company. We use them all the time. Dixon, you know, referred it to us, so, no, I don't have any reservations passing on that recommendation to you guys.
What happens to that upper water in the wintertime? Currently?
Obviously, if it's getting this warm, that we found out when we run it over the overflow, that tells me in the winter months, it's freezing
It's
in the
freezing,
top
and you're
side.
getting that ice.
If it's getting that warm, it definitely, when it gets that cool, it is definitely freezing
We
in the
had
top.
trouble a few years ago with it freezing out.
Well, that was years and years and years ago, yeah.
40 below.
Right, and you start
Yeah,
getting
so-
temperatures like that, and then you get chunks, and that's what's starting to scour the inside of your tank.
Where the mixing valve will actually eat the ice out. It'll stop the ice from forming too,
As long as the water's
because
moving.
we're
You
moving
continue
the
to
water.
keep that movement.
It's like a big fire pump in there, just pumping water. A jet of water is what it is.
You know, our home seems to be the one most affected by people on the board, because I'm the closest to the tank, but we've lived there for 20 years, and this is basically the first year that we've ever had trouble.
Correct.
But it's the hottest summer we've had.
Right. And the groundwater's still coming out the same
And my
temperature.
water,
Before, right.
my water at my house, even from the last month, still smells.
And what we did is we physically went out and started running that well every day. And the first thing Brian said to me was, boy, I can really tell you're putting some fresh water in there. And then unfortunately, we quit running it, and Brian come back to me and said, I can tell you're not putting fresh water back in, Sam. So he noticed it right off the bat, and I questioned,
My wife noticed it.
how many other people out there noticed it?
Well, and, right, stuff starts to, when things get warm, things grow, and, you know, and you guys don't chlorinate, you know, so it's definitely even more so a concern. So-
And there'll be an additional cost to that for the electrician, because he's gotta get power all the way up to the top of the tank, which is 104 feet up to that tank. And then we have to get it into the well house, plus we got Jennifer may have 2 to 3, 4 hours involved in it. So we're gonna have a little bit of cost with her. So I
We're
would,
looking at those 20,000?
That's for the cost for the unit and for them to come out and install it. That's what you have in your packets
So
tonight.
it's plus you and,
Plus, yes.
plus them and Arn Electric.
No, so this Medora Corporation will install it, or
They
Dixon?
will,
Medora will
yes,
send
they,
somebody.
yeah. No, Sam opted to not.
Did you get a price from her?
He was here today and he looked at it. It's so hard to tell because, you know, when you start climbing 100 feet straight up and down, time becomes an issue. So what he was gonna do was bring 3 electricians, all 3 of his guys, and hoping he could do it in one day, which would be $1,300 roughly for him and his 3 guys, and roughly $500 worth of material. But now that, you know, there's ifs and ands come into it. You start climbing 100 feet straight up and down, up and down. It's
Figure
awful
a couple
tiring.
$1,000 to get the power there.
Yep, and then I'm kind of figuring about $750 for Jennifer's time that she's got in it. She's
So you're looking at-
gonna get with me and give me a bill on it.
$23,000.
But we wanted to give you guys some kind of a little cost factor there, so you knew what we were getting involved in.
Anything else that you think will be a
No, I can.
No. No, they specifically said we have to get the power to them, and after that, they take over.
How many complaints are you getting from water people who have that?
Well, what I'm afraid of, Leela, I haven't got a lot of complaints, but what I'm afraid, I know for a fact, if I run the water out of the overflow, I don't wanna take a bacteriological sample, because it will fail at that temperature of water. So it becomes a safety issue now. What do we do with the tank? Do we keep using it?
It's a necessity to do this.
To a point,
It is.
to a point.
That's not, I wouldn't want to be using that water.
You know, we're kind of fortunate because you're using that bottom column of fresh water that's still being stirred, so. What we're doing is safeguarding the top portion by putting the mixing valve in.
But I think even in the winter time, it's gonna be beneficial.
It is. And I was granted a 10-year inspection from the DEQ on that water tank. Well, my new inspection's due 2020. So we will be back inside that tank in 2020 to physically see what the glass lining looks like. And And it may show some deterioration on the glass lining at that point.
If we,
But we're getting ice buildup in there in the glass lining, you know we're getting damage.
Yeah,
if we can, how long do you think it would take to get this done if you decided to do it
I
right?
think it's probably gonna take them guys longer to get here
I think they told me, yeah, they're 4 to 6 weeks after you sign.
Right.
to do it.
I just wonder if we get in time to feel the difference in this summer.
That I can't answer.
Yeah.
But I know we would use it come winter, because that's,
It's gonna start-
if it's hot, it's freezing too.
Okay.
I don't think we have a recourse. I think we have to do this. For the village itself, people in the village. I have a well, so I don't have to worry about it, but I'll doggone it all. You guys,
And I
it's
wanna
not
really,
fair.
I wanna thank Jennifer for the time she's put in on this for me. Because I didn't have the faintest idea how to do it. So,
Well, I'm not gonna be the one to make the motion.
So how do I make that motion? Since I have my own well, I'm not prejudiced.
My wife would appreciate that.
I make a motion that we proceed with this.
We can't, Leila.
It's the-
Procedurally, it's not part of our action items tonight. I
Oh, we
suppose,
can't?
I suppose we could make a motion to move it to an action
Go
item
back and amend
On the agenda.
on the
Go
agenda.
But
And
then you've got another 4 weeks to go before you can do anything.
I understand that.
I personally don't think another 4 weeks is gonna make that much of a difference.
You don't? How about if she could if we agree that we're going to be doing it maybe in another month, she could call them, find out when there are possible times they could come to do it.
I did, I had asked them already what their lead times were, and they said 4 to 6.
So if we were to get on their schedule, always cancel. But nevertheless, it's a case of getting it
Until we
done.
get the money, until we get the approval.
Mhm.
I,
Can we amend the agenda?
we could amend the agenda, that's not an issue. The money is in the water account, I'm sure, to cover it. And we haven't spent anything there all summer, so that's not the issue. I guess if that's what you guys wanna do, if that's
You
fine.
wanna I make a motion that we amend the agenda to put the water circulation part on the agenda for the night, action items.
That'd be L then,
No, yep.
Yeah.
approve,
Aye.
What?
Action item aye.
No, no.
L.
Yep, aye.
What's it called?
What's the
Water
total?
circulation equipment?
Circulation.
We are spending more than $2,500.
We have to vote on the agenda, the amended agenda now, right?
Right.
We do, we have, I need a support on the motion.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported to amend the agenda and move portable water circulation equipment to action item L. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, now it's there. We can come back to it after we proceed through the rest of it. We'll do that.
All right.
All right, action item A, approve section 504 self-evaluation document. The last page you did not receive in advance because I just completed that today. All of our action items, A through H, have to do with the fact that we're getting the grant monies from the state through the Rising Tide program. And this is being required. We were to provide a self-evaluation on the services that we provide, how we address be handicapped and in essence, how we treat everybody the same. So my one-page answer to them is the back one, if you want to review that. I don't know if that's what they were looking for, but that's what I did. So I didn't forward it on to anybody that knows any more about it. I'm just assuming that they'll have to accept it. I think we are covered for everything that they're asking for. And it's because of the federal government guidelines that we're having to do this, and the states having to do it, and passing it on down to us. But anyway, need a motion to approve the self-evaluation document.
Self-evaluation document A through H, or just item A?
Just item A, section 504 ADA, self-evaluation.
I'll make it.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. It's not costing us any money. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried.
We have a B now?
B, residential anti-displacement and relocation plan under section 104D of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 is amended. Since our monies are being used to put in docks and build pavilions and bathrooms, we are not requesting or asking or requiring anyone to be displaced. Those are already properties that are owned by us, but this is a requirement to say that if, in fact, we get involved with a project in the future and somebody has to move because of it, then we follow the appropriate procedures to do so. We need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Then moved and supported to approve the residential anti-displacement relocation plan under section 104D of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. Non-discrimination on the basis of handicap. This is a reiteration of what we have already included in our ordinances. But there again, it's another document that they're requiring us to approve.
I'll make a motion to accept the document.
Support.
Been moved and supported to accept the document for non-discrimination on the basis of handicap. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Approved, motion has passed. Excessive force policy. This resolution, this says that if there's peaceful demonstrations going on within the community, that our police department or anyone else will not use excessive force against non-violent civil rights demonstrators.
Make a motion to accept this policy.
Support.
And moved and supported to approve the excessive force policy. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. Citizen participation plan. Most everything that we have done to date requires, that involves grant monies, changes in ordinances. They all require public hearings. Our ordinances reflect that. This is another document to reiterate the same. Need a motion to approve citizen participation plan.
I make a motion to approve citizens participation plan.
Support.
Been moved and supported to accept, to approve the citizen participation plan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. Section 3 policy, Village of Central Lake, economic opportunities policy for section 3 covered contracts. Again, this is all things that, for the most part, are covered as requirements for anything that we have done in the past or we intend to do in the future. This one pertains particularly to helping those that may be displaced. Um, that we use contractors that are certified to do the work that we're asking them to do. That we direct our efforts to help the low and very low income persons residing in whatever development that is being worked on. Notify our constituents that there are possible jobs available through whatever contracts are being granted. Just to make sure that all contractors that we hire that do their best to hire low to moderate income folks. That's kind of the gist behind this one, so. Need a motion to approve the Village of Central Lake Economic Opportunities Policy, Section 3, covered contracts.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Been moved and supported to accept Section 3 policy. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. Fair housing ordinance. This again pertains to housing and not discriminating towards people of race, color, religion, sex, national origin. And most of our ordinances already protect us from discriminating activity anyway. Again, this is to reiterate, make sure that we comply with what the feds and the states are telling us that we need to comply. Need a motion to approve the fair housing ordinance.
Approve the fair housing ordinance.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. Okay, that takes care of all of our grant issues. Last month we had a visit from Dan Leonard and a couple of state guys from the governor's office, and we needed to, as a community, adopt a strategic communications plan with the goals and objectives. This was provided through the Rising Tide Consultants, and we passed in 2015 an internet communications policy. This will enhance that and satisfy their requirement that we have adopted a communications plan that we will hopefully use as we develop and go forth in our business of running this organization. Need a motion to approve the Village of Central Lake Strategic Communications Planning.
I'll make,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the LCAs.
Been moved and supported to accept the communications plan as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. When I was re-elected in 2014, I combine the DDA and Planning Commission. I thought that it was a prudent thing to do since much of what both of those groups should talk about should overlap. We've had issues in keeping people on that combined board. When Corey resigned last month from the DDA and the Planning Commission, I figured it was time that we go back, since that didn't work, that we go back, split the two groups, and begin to find members of the community to serve on each of them. We went through, Rachel did most of this work, went through with the ordinance 1 and 2 as we see. She developed a third one that combined, but we forwarded these on to Brian Graham. He read them over. We didn't need number 3. He made a couple of changes to 1 and 2. And what essentially we are doing is we're going to create a DDA board of 8 members and a Planning Commission board of 5 members, one of which is me, 1 or more members of the village council, and then 3 members from the community. The DDA board will be the village president and 8 members. Everybody's appointed by the village president. Everybody's subject to approval by the entire council. So ordinance number 1 deals with the DDA. Need a motion to approve ordinance number 1 of 2018 and 19. Moved and supported. Any further discussion?
How many people do we have left on the DDA? Chad, Tracy, and Chris?
Any further discussion or any questions? All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Ordinance number 2 of 2018 and 19 is presented to change our planning commission to consist of 5 members, 1 being me, 1 more from the council, and 3 from the community. Need a motion to approve ordinance number 2.
Motion we approve ordinance number 2.
Support. Been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
I got one question.
Okay.
It says here, 1 or more members of the village council, so technically, the village council could be the whole planning commission.
Yes, but we're also, planning commission runs into zoning, and zoning runs into the board of appeals, and we are already the board of appeals for that. I feel a little reluctant to just say we can become the planning commission. I think we're circumventing the community.
I was just
trying to
reading,
get there.
the wording here, and just
Yeah.
wanted to finalize that.
But that's, yeah, that's, getting participation is a challenge, and that's the key. So anyway, we got a motion and a support on that, right? Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. The last one for the night is Jennifer's work in soliciting bids. We received the 1 bid. Huh?
L.
Good with Katie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I forgot about it. Ran out of paper. Second to the last thing we have to do is approve the bid and recommendation from Gordy Frazier's to hire Lakeshore Marine Construction to put in our docks down at the park. My question to her earlier, I think before everybody got here, what was the 33-foot pier and the 39-foot pier, and the cost difference. And because of our water levels fluctuating in that area, they have some latitude to increase or decrease materials according to the depth. So we're approving essentially a 49,502 bid, but we're saying that you may have another $6,200 to work with if you run into issues. So,
Well, and it's kind of constructed too, kind of in a cove, so, you know, laterally, they're not all gonna be the same length, but, and as you saw, yes, so from the letter, I mean, we had a budget of $67,500 to work with from Rising Tide. So yes, we decided to bid it out, so that we have a minimum and a maximum scenario to work with.
You stay inside that budget anyways.
The 55.7, yes. Yes, we have to, we'll be staying with it. You mean the 67,000? Yes.
What is this the gentleman from Charlevoix?
It is, yep.
Okay, he put the docks in at Bolton.
Correct. Sam has used him before. We've used him in other lake locations. I also checked his references and they came back.
This is Lakeshore, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he did Hamley Cove.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
good.
He does a very good job. And the thing with this grant too is there's certain criteria. He has to be bonded, insured, Davis-Bacon. So he had to comply with the wage requirements as well, which not all the local contractors were able to do. So even though we got one bid, we were under budget and we were very fortunate to have, you know, a good contractor that's.
What is the projected completion date?
October 1st is when it's supposed to be done. So if pending your approval tonight, I will get the paperwork in order and we'll get them going on this project, so.
Why is it $70 more per lineal feet at 33 versus 39? Found that odd.
He's got to pick up the lumber. Got gas.
Yeah. $1,429 a lineal foot at 39 feet, $1,500 per lineal foot at 33.
So do we need to approve this?
yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for Lake Shore Marine Construction with the approval of Gordy Frazier.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Chapman?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Lovelace?
Yes.
Patton?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yeah.
He said yes. didn't he?
Maybe it's gonna pull it.
I said yes the first time.
Letter L, portable oil water circulation equipment, we discussed it. We are spending more than $2,500 without it going out for bid, but I assume that this is probably a pretty, yeah, not necessarily an emergency, but
Necessity.
not that either. I'm trying to get
It's a pretty specialized piece of equipment.
specialized was the word I was looking
Oh, okay.
for. So, you know, to get bids from various folks at this stage of the game, I think is, we're not gonna get very many, and it sounds as if these folks are coming highly recommended, and the sooner we get it done, I think the better off we are. So, need a motion to approve the purchase of the portable water circulation equipment as was presented with,
I will still make that motion.
okay.
Since I have nothing,
Can we include other expenses up to $25,000?
That sounds like a good,
Yeah,
I'll support.
yeah, because we got the electrical.
yeah.
the engineering on this.
Should be around 23, best guess, but we'll approve up to 25 is what our motion is reflecting.
thank you.
And support by Chapman. And a roll call vote.
Chapman?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Lovelace?
Yes.
Patton?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Eckert?